My name is Judy Lee, and I'm a student at the University of Hong Kong. Approaching my final year of university, I started thinking a lot about my career prospects. So my friend Michael Kim and I decided to go out and interview working professionals in various industries and hear what they have to say to students like us. I hope this helps. Today, we're talking with Hannah Bloxham about what companies are looking for in potential new employees. Hannah is the regional HR partner for a multinational company, and she has extensive experience in dealing with recent graduates starting their professional lives. Thank you very much, Hannah, for joining me today. So, my first question is, what are you looking for in a new hire in terms of their mentality?
I think with graduate recruitment, companies are at the end of the day recruiting for the future. So we're actually most focused on the behaviours that a recent graduate can bring to our company. So you often find selection processes focused on what we call competency-based interviewing.
Okay.
So we want to understand how graduates will contribute in the future to our business, and we will train up the technical side. So we want people that can lead teams, that can work effectively as teams. We want people that can demonstrate an international mindset, as the majority of, I say the majority, most multinationals want to have leaders that are mobile across countries because that's how business tends to operate now. So the main piece of feedback I would give to graduates around that is that companies are looking for future leadership potential with graduate hires. So the behaviours they demonstrate, how they talk about what they do, how they build relationship with the interviewer, how they demonstrate knowledge about the company, tells a recruiter more than the qualifications they might have had or the school they've studied at.
So how are you able to see through that kind of behavior just through that interview?
Well, we use a variety of selection techniques
Okay.
when it comes to graduate recruitment. So we might start with an interview, a couple of rounds of telephone interviews or in-person interviews,
Okay.
where we would get a graduate to talk about how they have demonstrated the behaviours that we're looking for in the past.
In the past.
So you get questions like, tell me about a time that you have led a group of people,
Okay.
or tell me about a time where you have overcome a seemingly insurmountable problem. So by that, we're looking to understand how a graduate would lead people. So we would probe further in terms of how did you set your goals? How did you gain buy-in from that group of people? How did you manage conflict? So we're asking a graduate to tell us in real specific detail about a particular time where they have supposedly demonstrated the behaviour we need.
Right, because it's under the basis that it's consistent. Whatever they have demonstrated in the past, it will be consistent in the future, therefore.
Yeah, we have to work off the basis that past behaviour indicates future behaviour.
Right, okay.
Now, of course, that's not always the case. People change over time, but for a selection process in the world of work, it's a good enough approach for us at the moment.
I see. So, do you think that recent graduates that you've been interviewing are fulfilling all those criteria, or are you just
Struggling to find people.
Yeah,
We are still struggling to find people. I think the graduate recruitment market is getting incredibly competitive. I think you talk to any graduate or recent graduate or someone approaching graduation, and it's often overwhelming the number of programs that are out there and the number of applicants that are out there. As an employer, an employer's perspective, I work currently at the moment, I've got 5 open graduate vacancies in my organisation. I currently work, if I take China as an example, I have around 2,500 applicants for every 1 vacancy. And there may be 6 or so rounds of selection. And usually at the last stage, I only have around 6 candidates to choose from out of the 2,000 for 1 vacancy. So there are a significant number of applicants. But at every stage, I'm almost halving the number of people because we're not getting the quality of people that we as a company are looking for. It's no good for me if I've got the greatest technical accountant or the greatest technical investment banker if they're unable to build effective working relationship with their colleagues or to manage their internal stakeholders. They could be so driven to achieve their sales numbers that they alienate their risk colleagues who are actually responsible for signing off the deal. So we need people that can look beyond that basic basic purpose of what the role is and understand that their role is part of a wider operation. It's almost emotional intelligence to put an academic term on it. But that's what we're looking for within graduates. We're looking for people that can navigate the interpersonal, social aspect in a very skilled manner, which would then help them become more effective with the technical knowledge they bring to the table.
But it's very interesting to hear that it's getting actually harder and harder to find qualified applicants who can actually fulfill that role.
Yeah, and
as time is, I assume that it should be getting easier, but it's not. It's getting harder.
It is. I think it's great that we've got more and more people coming through higher education. So you look at both mature and mature economies have invested a lot in increasing the number of candidates coming through higher education, and we're seeing an ever increasing in the emerging markets as well. But with that, you have more and more supply coming onto the market, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's a match with what the organisations are looking for on graduation.
Right. Okay.
So. Again, my main message to recent grads who are embarking on that journey for that would be focus really on what is the culture of the organisation, what are the behaviours that would reflect that culture. If it's about innovation or creativity and fast technological change, we would be looking for graduates that can demonstrate their ability to come up with innovative ideas, to demonstrate creativity, to think in an unusual manner. So I would encourage the graduates to then think of examples where they have done that in the past.
Okay.
And if they haven't, then they should probably start doing that. So they've got something to talk about
at
interviews.
Like do your research. Do your research on the firm.
Totally. No, do your research on the firm and do your research on the functional area to which you're applying.
What would be your one piece of advice to the students who are basically terrified of the future or life after graduation?
Don't be.
Okay.
I think it's inevitable first. I don't mean that to be a flippant answer in any way. I think it's totally normal, and it's the same the world over, whether I'm doing graduate recruitment in Poland or the US or the UK or here in Hong Kong. It's the same. All this education you've been going through for the last 10, 15 years, you're like, oh, well now I've got to use it. What do I do? And it's the first time where there's no clear next step, and it's up to you without any kind of external structure providing you with that next step. So it's perfectly normal to be apprehensive about that. I think the next piece I would say is the first job you do will be your biggest learning opportunity, but will probably be the one that you almost move out of the quickest. But at the same time, that first job is also the most significant at providing the general direction on how things could develop. So it's worth taking the time to think through, what do I think I want to be doing? What is the type of organisation I think I want to be working within? And I think it's more important for a student to come to their own criteria to develop really what is most important for them and their own goals. If I have a graduate in front of me that is very clear on what they want to do and has spent the time investing and researching up on that area of work or that type of organisation and can demonstrate they've researched and spent time to formulate their own goals, that speaks to me a lot more around this is someone I want to have within my business than someone who has memorised the job description, memorised the company internet site, and is almost regurgitating because they think, I've got to get a grad job with a big multinational. It's around thinking through what's most important to you.
So knowing who you are, like how do you suggest students to actually embark on that kind of journey? Like how do you...
That sounds very abstract, and I don't want people to have to go delve into the self-help aisles in the local bookstore. That's not what I mean. I think it's literally around taking the time to think through, where am I most effective? What am I passionate about? What do I enjoy doing? If I love to cook, well, what are my options around that? Is that restaurant PR? Is that restaurant journalism? Think through what are the areas that I'm most passionate about, and just do some research under the huge variety of options that could exist within something similar to that. It doesn't necessarily have to be around working within a big multinational.
So this last question that I want to ask you is about actually networking. Okay. And we hear about, networking, or I got into this organization through him. And there's just, people have this wrong conception of networking. It's an evil thing. You're going in through the back door, or, just because you know someone. Like, I just want to hear your thoughts on just what it means to you and what
what
first
role
of
it
all.
could play, yeah, for
Yeah.
graduates. I think it's a difficult one because the relationships that we make are in every aspect of life are pretty fundamental to how life works, and that's the same within the workplace. And networking can play a huge role in whether you achieve what you want to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it has to have a goal, and it recognises it's more than just exchanging details. Um, I do a lot of work with various recruitment agencies,
Yeah.
and it's great, very, very rare, but great when I meet current students that
Mm-hmm.
have shown the initiative to engage with recruitment
Okay.
agencies even before they've graduated, and they
Mm-hmm.
can get on their books and they can get invited or asked to be invited and
Yes.
included with the networking events that those recruitment agencies may hold. Now, if I meet a graduate at one of those events that says, hey, I'm interested in a career in X, could we meet up for coffee one time? I'll buy you a coffee and I'd love to hear your perspectives on the current challenges within investment banking and what that means for new recruits. For me, that's a much more engaging conversation than, hi, here's my card, can I send you my CV, do you have any jobs for me? Which tends to be the case. I think it's really about having a compelling argument. And if you network, recognize who are the people that you want to build connections with, and use the opportunity to demonstrate what you know and what you want. So, yes, make the contacts. I would encourage every graduate to do that, but make sure you're doing it with a purpose and using it as a selling opportunity as opposed to simply gain someone's details.
And it's also about building that personal relationship with that person and just demonstrating who you are to that person instead of just thinking what you can get out of that person.
Yeah, I mean it's a difficult one because I love my job and I work with it with a huge number of people. Are all of them close personal friends? No, they're not, and that's not how the world works. I mean, everyone knows that within the professional workplace that it's a give and take, and there's about mutual interaction.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, as I was saying before, on behaviours,
Mm-hmm.
everyone wants to do business with people that they feel they know and that can have fun doing it, and at the end of the day, can trust.
Yeah.
And trust takes time to build up. It's about the values that an individual shows and the behaviour that someone shows. So with networking, I think it's just about demonstrating who you are and what you're looking for, and building a productive relationship with that person.
I see. All right. Thank you so much.
My
That
pleasure.
was very, very. I'm sure that people who are watching this would be incredibly. Um, it would help them.